Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty and watched Jupiter grow larger on the main screen. His ship was the best Earth had ever built, but it still felt small next to the giant planet. The Liberty carried 200 crew members and enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Jake had been proud of his command for 3 years now. "Captain, we are picking up something strange on long-range sensors," said Ryan Bell from the communications station. Ryan was young but smart and never made mistakes with the equipment. "What kind of strange?" Jake asked as he walked over to look at the readings. "Big energy signatures coming from deep space, multiple contacts moving fast toward the inner system," Ryan said. His voice was calm, but Jake could hear worry in it. Lisa Park looked up from her engineering console. She was the best engineer in the fleet and could fix anything that broke. "Captain, those energy readings are off the charts. I have never seen anything like this before." Amy Stone checked her weapon systems twice before speaking. She was tough and always ready for a fight. "Sir, if those are ships, they are much bigger than anything we have ever seen." Jake felt his stomach tighten. Earth had been looking for alien life for over a century, but finding it like this was not what anyone wanted. "Put it on the main screen, and give me maximum magnification." The screen changed to show empty space with small dots of light moving between the stars. As Ryan adjusted the sensors, the dots became clearer. They were not natural objects. The shapes were long and curved like teardrops, but made of metal that gleamed in the starlight. Each one was enormous. "How big are they?" Jake asked. "The largest. One is over 50 kilometers long and 20 kilometers wide," Lisa said. Her face had gone pale. "Captain, that is bigger than most cities on Earth." Before Jake could respond, the alien ships suddenly appeared much closer. They had moved across, millions of kilometers in just seconds. The Liberty's sensors screamed warnings as massive vessels took positions around the outer planets. "Get me Admiral Phillips at Earth Defense Command right now," Jake ordered. Admiral Kate Phillips appeared on the communication screen within minutes. She was a tough woman who had fought in 3 wars and never backed down from anything. "Captain Morrison, we are tracking multiple unknown vessels in our system. What can you tell me?" "Admiral, we count at least 50 ships of unknown design. The largest ones are the size of cities. They appeared using some kind of faster-than-light travel we have never seen before." Kate's expression became grim. "Are they responding to our communications?" "We have been trying to contact them for 10 minutes with no response," Ryan said. Suddenly, every screen on the Liberty lit up with the same image. A creature that looked like a giant lizard wearing armor stared at them with yellow eyes. Its voice was deep and cold when it spoke. "I am War Master Thektar of the Draconian Empire. Your species has been selected for incorporation into our domain. You will surrender all military forces and submit to our authority. You have 1 solar cycle to comply, or your world will be reduced to ash." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Jake looked at his crew and saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. Humans had always been fighters. "Admiral, did you receive that transmission?" Jake asked. "The whole system heard it, Captain. Every ship, every station, every colony got the same message." Kate paused, and Jake could see her thinking. "Captain Morrison, I want you to observe these aliens, but do not engage. We need to learn everything we can about their capabilities." "Understood, Admiral." For the next several hours, the Liberty watched as more alien ships arrived. The Draconian fleet grew to over 200 vessels of different sizes. Some were small and fast like fighters, while others were massive battleships that dwarfed anything humans had ever built. Dr. Susan Hayes contacted the Liberty from Earth. She was the planet's best expert on alien life, even though she had never seen any real aliens before today. "Captain, we are analyzing the transmissions from these Draconians. Their technology appears to be organic in nature. The ships themselves might be grown rather than built." "What does that mean for us, Doctor?" Jake asked. "It means they think very differently than we do. Their entire approach to technology and warfare will be unlike anything we have prepared for." Jake was about to respond when alarms started ringing throughout the ship. Amy Stone shouted from her station, "Captain, the aliens are firing on Luna Base!" On the main screen, they watched in horror as a beam of pure energy struck the human colony on Earth's moon. The base that housed 50,000 people simply vanished in a flash of light. Where the colony had been there was now only a crater of melted rock. My God, Lisa whispered. The same cold voice of War Master Thektar filled the communication channels again. This demonstrates our resolve. Your species has one solar cycle to surrender. Resist, and every human world will suffer the same fate. Jake felt anger burning in his chest. The aliens had just murdered 50,000 innocent people to make a point. He looked at his crew and saw the same rage in their faces. Admiral Phillips, the Liberty requests permission to engage the enemy, Jake said. Kate's face was hard as stone. Negative, Captain. I know how you feel, but we cannot win a direct fight against them. Return to Earth immediately. We need every ship we have to protect the home world. As the Liberty turned toward Earth, Jake watched the alien fleet spread out through the solar system. They moved with purpose and coordination that spoke of long experience in conquest. These were not explorers or diplomats. They were invaders who had done this many times before. Captain, we are receiving emergency transmissions from Mars Colony and the asteroid mining stations, Ryan said. The Draconians are demanding immediate surrender from all human settlements. Jake clenched his fists. In just a few hours, everything had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, but their new neighbors wanted to make them slaves. The Draconians had superior numbers, better technology, and weapons that could destroy entire cities with a single shot. But as Jake looked at his crew, he remembered something his father had told him long ago. Humans might not be the strongest or the smartest, but they never gave up. They found ways to win even when winning seemed impossible. The Liberty raced toward Earth at maximum speed, while behind them the Draconian Armada prepared for war. Admiral Kevin Wright stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance and watched his fleet take formation around Earth. 300 ships from every nation on the planet had come together for humanity's last stand. The vessels ranged from massive battleships to small fighters, but all of them were preparing to face an enemy unlike anything they had ever fought. Admiral, all ships report ready for combat, said his communications officer. Kevin had commanded fleets for 20 years, but never in a battle where the fate of the entire human race hung in the balance. Signal the fleet. We go in fast and hit them hard before they can organize a proper defense, Kevin ordered. He knew it was a desperate plan, but desperation was all they had left. The human fleet accelerated toward the Draconian ships positioned near Mars. The aliens had been quiet since destroying Luna Base, but their sensors were tracking every human movement. Kevin hoped that meant they were overconfident. Enemy ships are turning to face us, reported Lieutenant Commander Sarah Walsh from the tactical station. They are not running. Kevin nodded grimly. He had not expected the aliens to retreat, but he had hoped they might be surprised by the human attack. The Draconian ships moved with fluid grace that was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. All ships, fire at will, Kevin commanded. The space between the fleets lit up with weapons fire. Human plasma cannons and missile launchers poured their fury toward the alien vessels. Nuclear warheads that could crack asteroids streaked through the void toward their targets. Then the Draconian shields activated. The alien ships were surrounded by shimmering energy barriers that absorbed every human weapon without taking any damage. Plasma bolts that should have melted through armor simply disappeared. Nuclear explosions that could level cities barely caused the shields to flicker. Admiral, our weapons are having no effect, Sarah reported. Her voice was steady, but Kevin could hear the shock in it. The Draconians began to return fire. Their weapons were beams of focused energy that cut through human ships like knives through paper. The first vessel to die was the destroyer Portland. One moment it was there, and the next it was expanding debris and escaping atmosphere. Evasive maneuvers! Kevin shouted, but it was too late for many of his ships. The cruiser Beijing exploded when an alien beam struck its reactor. The battleship Moscow lost its entire forward section to another energy weapon. Human ships that had taken years to build were being destroyed in seconds. Colonel Danny Foster watched the space battle from his command post in Denver while preparing his own impossible mission. His ground forces were spread across every major city on Earth, waiting for the Draconian landing ships that were sure to come. Colonel, we have incoming, his radar operator called out. Multiple alien craft entering the atmosphere over all population centers. Danny looked up at the sky and saw shapes descending through the clouds. The Draconian landing ships were smaller than their battleships, but still larger than any aircraft humans had ever built. They moved without sound and landed with gentle precision in open areas near every major city. "All units, prepare for contact," Danny ordered into his radio. The alien ships opened and creatures emerged that made Danny's blood run cold. The Draconians stood 3 meters tall and looked like giant lizards wearing advanced armor. Their scales were dark green and their eyes glowed yellow in the sunlight. Each one carried weapons that hummed with energy. The first battle took place in Central Park in New York City. Human soldiers opened fire with everything they had. Rifles, machine guns, and rocket launchers filled the air with bullets and explosions. The Draconian armor absorbed the damage without showing any effect. The aliens returned fire with energy, weapons that turned human soldiers to ash where they stood. In London, Paris, Tokyo, and 100 other cities, the same scene played out. Human courage and determination met alien technology and lost every time. The Draconians advanced methodically through the streets while human forces fell back in confusion and terror. Dr. Mary Collins worked frantically in her laboratory while the sounds of battle echoed through the city outside. She was a quantum physicist who had been studying the wreckage of a Draconian scout ship that had crashed during the first attack. The alien technology was unlike anything she had ever seen. "The Science metal itself is alive," she told her assistant, Dr. Paul Green. "It responds to electrical impulses like nerve tissue. Their entire technology appears to be based on organic computing systems." Paul studied the data on his screen. "If their ships are alive, then they might have weaknesses that normal machines would not have." Mary nodded excitedly. "Exactly. Living. Systems can be poisoned, infected, or disrupted in ways that pure machines cannot." While Mary worked in her lab, Tony Clark was in the underground bunkers beneath Denver trying to save his city. He was an engineer who had spent his whole life building things, and now he was desperately trying to figure out how to destroy them. "Dad, I think I found something," said his daughter Nina from her computer terminal. She was a programmer who understood networks better than anyone Tony knew. "What did you find?" "The alien transmissions are not random. There is a pattern in their communications that suggests they are all connected to some kind of central network. If we could access that network, we might be able to disrupt their coordination." Tony felt hope for the first time since the aliens arrived. "Show me what you have." While Nina explained her discovery, the battle in space was reaching its end. Admiral Wright's fleet had been reduced to less than 50 ships. The Draconians had not lost a single vessel. "Admiral, we have lost 80% of our forces," Sarah reported. "Recommend immediate withdrawal." Kevin looked at the tactical display and knew she was right. Staying would only mean the death of every remaining human pilot, with no benefit to Earth's defense. "All ships, fall back to Earth orbit. We will make our stand there." As the survivors of the human fleet retreated, the Draconian ships followed, at a leisurely pace. They were not hurrying because they knew they had already won. President John Carter was in the White House Situation Room watching reports from around the world. Every major city was under attack, and human forces were being pushed back everywhere. The alien ground troops were advancing slowly but steadily toward the centers of population. "Mr. President, we are receiving surrender offers from several countries," his chief of staff reported. "Tell them to hold fast," John said firmly. "We do not surrender, while we still have people willing to fight." In New York, Dr. Susan Hayes was studying everything the military had learned about the aliens. She was looking for any weakness or vulnerability that could be exploited. The Draconians seemed to have better technology in every area, but there had to be something. "They move like a unified force," she noted to her research team. "Every action is coordinated perfectly. That suggests some kind of hive mind or collective consciousness." Her assistant looked up from his notes. "If they share consciousness, then disrupting that connection might cause widespread confusion." Susan felt excitement building. "Get me Dr. Collins in Denver. I think she might have found the key to fighting these creatures." As night fell over the Earth, the situation looked hopeless. Human military forces were in retreat everywhere, and alien troops controlled large parts of every major city. The space fleet had been almost completely destroyed, and more Draconian ships were arriving every hour. But in laboratories and bunkers around the world, human scientists and engineers were working on desperate plans. They were looking for ways to turn human creativity and determination into weapons that could match alien technology. The Draconians had conquered many worlds, but they had never faced anything like human stubborn refusal to give up. The aliens were about to learn that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from superior weapons, but from the will to keep fighting when victory seems impossible. War Master Thektar stood in his command ship and watched the human resistance crumble. Soon, this world would join the dozens of others in the Draconian Empire. The humans fought bravely, but bravery meant nothing against overwhelming technological superiority. Captain Jake Morrison led his small group through the ruined streets of Chicago 3 weeks after the Draconian invasion began. The aliens controlled the main roads and government buildings, but humans still moved through the shadows and underground tunnels. Jake's team included Marine Sergeant Beth Turner and pilot Alex Kane, along with a dozen other survivors from various military units. "Contact ahead," Beth whispered as she raised her rifle. She had been a Marine for 8 years and was the best soldier Jake had ever worked with. Through the broken windows of an office building, they could see 3 Draconian soldiers patrolling the street. The aliens moved slowly and seemed confident that no human force could threaten them. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Alex, you take the one on the left. Beth, center target." "I have the right," Jake said quietly into his radio. Or 3 humans fired at the same time. Their weapons were modified with technology salvaged from crashed alien ships. Instead of normal bullets, they fired energy disruptors that Dr. Collins had designed in her hidden laboratory. The Draconian armor sparked and failed as the soldiers collapsed. "Move fast before reinforcements arrive," Jake ordered. The team collected the alien weapons and equipment before disappearing back into the underground tunnels. Every successful attack taught them more about their enemies and gave them better tools to fight with. 2 levels below the streets, Dr. Susan Hayes had established a research facility in the abandoned subway system. The tunnels provided protection from alien sensors and easy movement between different parts of the city. Her team included Dr. Collins, physicist Dr. Paul Green, and engineer Rachel West. "The Draconian technology is completely biological," Susan explained to the group of scientists and soldiers gathered around her. "Their ships, weapons, and armor are grown rather than manufactured. This gives them advantages, but also creates vulnerabilities." Rachel looked up from the alien device she was studying. "Their neural networks are similar to brain tissue. If we could find a way to disrupt those networks, we might be able to disable their equipment." Dr. Green had been working on the problem for days. "I think the answer lies in human brain patterns. Our neural activity is different from any other species they have encountered. The Draconians evolved as a collective consciousness, but humans are individuals." Helen Brooks had been the director of the NSA before the invasion, and now she coordinated resistance activities across the planet. Her hidden command center received reports from fighters in every major city. The news was always the same. Human forces were outgunned and outnumbered, but they kept fighting. "We have confirmed reports of successful attacks in London, Tokyo, and Sydney," she told President Carter during their encrypted communication. "The aliens are having trouble adapting to guerrilla warfare." John Carter was operating from a mobile command center that moved constantly to avoid detection. "What about the scientist reports? Are they making progress on new weapons?" Dr. Hayes believes she has found a weakness in their collective consciousness. She is working with Dr. White on something called Project Mind Bridge. Dr. Carol White was a neuroscientist who had been studying human telepathy and psychic phenomena for 20 years. Most people thought her research was useless, but the Draconian invasion had changed everything. Her laboratory was hidden in an old military bunker outside Washington, D.C. "The human brain produces electrical patterns that are unique in the galaxy," she explained to her assistant Steve Miller. "These patterns seem to interfere with Draconian neural networks in ways we are only beginning to understand." Steve looked at the test results on his computer screen. "According to this data, certain humans with strong telepathic abilities can actually disrupt alien equipment just by concentrating on it." Carol nodded excitedly. "We need to find these people and train them. They could become living weapons against the Draconian technology." The search for psychically gifted humans led to Kyle Adams, a young man from Seattle who had always been able to sense other people's thoughts. Before the invasion, he had hidden his abilities because they frightened him. Now those same abilities might save humanity. "I can feel their minds," Kyle told Dr. White during his first test. The Draconians think differently than humans. Their thoughts are all connected like parts of the same machine. Can you disrupt that connection? Carol asked. Kyle concentrated and the alien device on the table began to spark and smoke. I think so, but it hurts to do it for very long. Maria Santos was another gifted human who had been found by the Resistance. Her empathic abilities allowed her to sense emotions from great distances. She could feel the alien soldiers before they appeared and warn human fighters to hide or prepare for battle. There are more of them coming from the north, she told Jake's team during a raid on a Draconian supply depot. At least 20 soldiers, and they are angry about something. Jake looked at the alien equipment they had been trying to steal. We got what we came for. Time to go. The team escaped through the subway tunnels just as Draconian reinforcements arrived at the depot. The aliens found their guards unconscious and valuable equipment missing. The humans were learning to strike fast and disappear before the enemy could respond. In her underground laboratory, Dr. Hayes was making discoveries that could change the war. The Draconian collective consciousness was powerful, but it had never encountered truly individual minds before. Human thoughts were like a computer virus to their organic networks. Their entire society is based on shared consciousness, she explained to President Carter during their secure communication. They cannot understand how humans can function as separate individuals. Our mental patterns are literally alien to them. Dr. Collins had been working with Tony Clark and his daughter Nina to develop ways to weaponize this discovery. If we can amplify human brain patterns and transmit them through their network, we might be able to cause system-wide failures. Nina looked up from her computer where she had been analyzing Draconian communication protocols. Dad, I think I can write a program that will spread through their network like a virus, but we need a way to inject it into their system. Tony studied the plans they had been developing. The neural amplifier that Dr. White designed might work. If we can boost Kyle's telepathic signal strong enough, it could reach their command ships. The plan was dangerous and untested, but it was the best hope humanity had. The Resistance was running out of time and resources, while the Draconians continued to bring more ships and troops to Earth. Captain Morrison received new orders from Helen Brooks to gather as many psychically gifted humans as possible. We are going to attempt something that has never been tried before, she told him. If it works, we might have a chance to turn this war around. Jake nodded grimly. What do you need from us? Protection for our psychic team while they attempt to attack the alien command structure. This will be our one chance to strike back at the Draconians in a way they cannot defend against. Kyle Adams, Maria Santos, and a dozen other humans with telepathic or empathic abilities gathered in the hidden bunker where Dr. White had built her neural amplification equipment. They knew that what they were about to attempt could either save Earth or kill them all. Remember, you are not trying to fight their individual minds. Carol instructed the psychic team. You are attacking the connections between them. Think of your thoughts as weapons that can cut through their network. As the psychic volunteers prepared for their mission, Resistance fighters across the planet made ready for coordinated attacks on Draconian positions. If the mental assault succeeded, it would cause confusion that could be exploited by conventional forces. War Master Thektar stood in his command chamber and reviewed reports from across the conquered planet. Human resistance was becoming more organized and effective, but it was still just an annoyance. Soon the last pockets of rebellion would be crushed, and this world would be properly incorporated into the Empire. The alien commander had no idea that deep beneath his feet, human minds were preparing to strike at the very foundation of Draconian power. Kyle Adams sat in the neural amplification chair while Dr. Carol White made final adjustments to the equipment. 3 months of Draconian occupation had taken their toll on Earth, but it had also given humanity time to prepare their counterattack. Around Kyle sat 11 other humans with telepathic abilities, including Maria Santos, Linda Scott, and Gary Kim. Remember, we are not trying to communicate with them, Carol said as she checked the power levels. We are trying to overwhelm their collective consciousness with pure human individuality. Kyle nodded and closed his eyes. He could already feel the alien minds pressing against his awareness, like a vast ocean of connected thoughts. The Draconian hive mind was powerful, but it had never encountered anything like human mental patterns. Nancy Lee coordinated communications from her hidden bunker 2 miles away. She had been tracking Draconian fleet movements for weeks and knew this was the perfect moment to strike. All resistance units report ready. The alien fleet is conducting a major operation near the moon. Captain Morrison led his strike team through the sewers beneath Chicago toward their target. His mission was to capture War Master Thektar's flagship during the confusion that the psychic attack would hopefully create. With him were explosives expert Brad Cooper, sniper Holly Price, and engineer Lisa Park. "The alien command ship is directly above us," Lisa said as she checked her scanner. "It is maintaining position over the city center." Jake looked at his team of volunteers. They all knew this was probably a suicide mission, but they also knew it might be humanity's only chance to strike back. "Remember, we need Thektar alive, if possible. He might have information that could help us understand their technology." Dr. Hayes monitored the psychic team from her underground laboratory while analyzing data from captured Draconian equipment. Her research had revealed that the aliens were actually multiple species that had been absorbed into a single collective consciousness over thousands of years. The Draconians were once individuals like us, she told President Carter through their secure link. But they gave up personal identity in exchange for technological advancement. They cannot comprehend how we function as separate beings. President Carter was in his mobile command center preparing to coordinate the global resistance attack. "Are you certain this will work, Doctor?" "Nothing is certain, Mr. President, but human consciousness appears to be like a computer virus to their organic networks. If we can inject enough individual thought patterns into their system, it should cause massive disruption." The psychic attack began at exactly noon, Greenwich Mean Time. Kyle and his team focused their minds on the alien network, while Dr. White's amplifiers boosted their mental signals to incredible levels. The effect was immediate and devastating. War Master. Thektar was reviewing invasion reports when the first wave hit his consciousness. Human thoughts crashed into the Draconian hive mind like a tsunami of chaos and confusion. Individual desires, fears, hopes, and dreams flooded through the collective network that had never experienced such mental discord. Across the Draconian fleet, organic computers began to malfunction as human brain patterns spread through their neural networks. Ships that had operated flawlessly for centuries suddenly found their navigation systems confused and their weapons offline. "What is happening?" Thektar demanded of his subordinates. But they were experiencing the same mental chaos. The hive, mind that had connected every Draconian consciousness, was fracturing under the assault of pure human individuality. Captain Morrison felt the alien ship above them shudder and begin to lose altitude. "Now!" he shouted to his team as they climbed through a maintenance shaft toward the surface. The Draconian flagship was descending rapidly as its organic control systems failed. Emergency hatches opened automatically as the ship's biological safety protocols activated. Jake's team reached the surface just as the massive vessel touched down in the ruins of downtown Chicago. "Lisa, can you get us inside?" Jake asked. The engineer studied the alien hull with her scanner. "The ship is in emergency mode. Its defenses are down and the entry ports are unlocked." Brad Cooper led the way with his explosives, while Holly Price provided sniper cover from a nearby building. The team moved quickly through the alien corridors, while Draconian crew members stumbled around in confusion. The psychic virus was spreading faster than anyone had hoped. Kyle felt the alien network crumbling as human thoughts infected every connection. Maria Santos reached out with her empathic abilities and sensed panic spreading through the Draconian fleet. "They are terrified," she reported to Dr. White. "They have never experienced individual consciousness before, and it is overwhelming them." Gary Kim focused his telepathic abilities on the command frequencies and felt alien coordination breaking down completely. "Their fleet commanders are losing contact with each other. The hive mind is fragmenting." Dr. Collins monitored the effect from her laboratory while Tony Clark and Nina worked to inject their computer virus into the alien network. "The organic computers are accepting our program," Nina reported excitedly. "The virus is spreading through their entire system." Admiral Kate Phillips had taken command of Earth's remaining space forces and was preparing to launch the final attack. The Draconian fleet was in chaos, with ships falling out of formation and weapons systems offline. "All units, advance and engage," she ordered. "Hit them while they cannot coordinate their defenses." The surviving human ships launched from their hiding places and attacked the confused alien fleet. Without their technological advantages, the Draconians found themselves vulnerable for the first time in centuries. Captain Morrison's team reached the command center of the alien flagship, where they found War Master Thektar collapsed on the floor. The alien commander was clutching his head and making sounds of distress as human thoughts continued to flood his consciousness. "Lisa, get that computer virus uploaded to their main system," Jake ordered while Brad secured the area. Lisa connected Nina's program to the alien command network and watched as it spread through the ship's organic computers. "Upload complete. The virus is now in their main system," Holly Price reported from her sniper position. "Captain, more alien ships are losing power and crashing. Whatever we did is working better than expected. The psychic attack was causing unprecedented damage to the Draconian collective consciousness. Across their empire, organic networks were failing as human mental patterns spread like wildfire through their systems. Kyle Adams felt the alien hive mind breaking apart as individual Draconian consciousness began to emerge for the first time in millennia. Some of the aliens were experiencing personal identity, and it was both terrifying and liberating for them. "The collective is dissolving," Kyle reported weakly. The mental effort was exhausting him, but he could feel victory within. Dr. White monitored the biological signs of her psychic team. "2 more minutes, and then we shut down the amplifiers. We cannot risk permanent damage to our people." War Master Thektar opened his yellow eyes and looked at the humans standing over him. For the first time in his life, he was thinking his own thoughts instead of sharing the collective consciousness of his species. "What have you done to us?" he asked in broken English. Jake Morrison looked down at the alien commander who had ordered the destruction of Luna Base. "We gave you something your species forgot it ever had. We gave you back your individual minds." Across the Draconian fleet, alien crew members were experiencing the same awakening. Some welcomed their new individual consciousness, while others fought desperately to return to the collective that had defined their existence. The war that had seemed hopeless just hours before was turning in humanity's favor. The Draconians had conquered dozens of worlds with their superior technology and unified purpose, but they had never faced an enemy that could attack the very foundation of their collective existence. Human creativity and stubborn individualism had found a way to turn the aliens' greatest strength into their greatest weakness. The quantum virus spread through the Draconian fleet faster than their organic computers could adapt to stop it. Ships that had operated as a unified force for thousands of years suddenly found themselves isolated and confused. War Master Thektar tried to re-establish contact with his fleet, but the collective consciousness that had connected every Draconian mind was completely shattered. Admiral Kate Phillips watched from the bridge of her command ship as alien vessels began falling out of formation. Some Draconian ships were trying to retreat, while others drifted powerlessly through space as their organic systems failed. The human fleet pressed their advantage and attacked the confused enemy formations. "All ships, concentrate fire on the largest vessels," Kate ordered. "We may never get another chance like this." Human weapons that had been useless against Draconian shields now found their targets vulnerable and exposed. The alien ships were no longer protected by their advanced technology because the organic computers that controlled their defenses were infected with human consciousness patterns. Captain Morrison secured War Master Thektar, while Lisa Park worked to extract information from the alien command systems. The Draconian leader was experiencing individual thought for the first time in his life, and the sensation was overwhelming him. "The collective is gone," Thektar said in amazement. "I can hear my own thoughts without the voices of my species. How is this possible?" Jake looked at the alien commander with a mixture of anger and pity. "You conquered dozens of worlds, but you never understood what makes those species unique. Humans are individuals, and that makes us stronger than any collective." Dr. Hayes monitored the collapse of the Draconian network from her underground laboratory. The aliens had built their entire civilization on shared consciousness, and they had no experience dealing with independent minds. The psychic virus was causing system failures throughout their fleet. "The larger ships are losing life support," she reported to President Carter. "Their organic systems cannot function without central coordination." President Carter emerged from his mobile command center for the first time in months as reports of victory came in from around the globe. What is the status of their ground forces? Helen Brooks coordinated the information from resistance cells worldwide. Draconian troops are retreating to their landing ships, but many of the ships cannot take off. The virus has infected their flight systems. Kyle Adams and the other psychic volunteers were exhausted from their mental assault, but they could feel the alien collective consciousness continuing to fragment. Individual draconian minds were emerging across their empire as the hive mind that had connected them for millennia finally dissolved. Some of them are grateful, Maria Santos reported weakly. I can sense draconians who are experiencing joy at being free from the collective for the first time. Dr. White carefully monitored the biological signs of her psychic team. That is enough. We need to shut down the amplifiers before we cause permanent damage to our people. As the neural amplifiers powered down, the immediate psychic assault ended, but the damage to the Draconian network was already irreversible. The quantum virus that Nina Clark had designed continued to spread through their organic computers, causing failures throughout their fleet. War Master Thektar looked at his captors with new understanding. My species conquered your world because we believed collective consciousness was superior to individual thought. We were wrong. Your people do not have to be our enemies, Jake said. But you cannot continue conquering other worlds and forcing them into your collective. One of Thektar's subordinates entered the command chamber, and Jake was surprised to see that the alien was not wearing the standard Draconian armor. The creature spoke in halting English. I am Kethvar, formerly sub-commander of the Third Fleet. I choose to be called by this individual name now that I am free from the collective. I wish to speak for those of my people who welcome this liberation. Lisa looked up from the alien computer systems. Captain, their entire fleet network is down. The virus has spread to every ship and most of them are losing power. Admiral Phillips received surrender signals from dozens of Draconian vessels as their crews realized they could no longer function as a unified force. Many alien ships were now stranded in Earth's solar system with failing life support and no way to return home. This is Admiral Phillips to all Draconian vessels. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Any ship that attempts to attack human forces will be destroyed. Some Draconian ships tried to fight, but their weapons and shields were offline. Others attempted to flee, but their navigation systems were corrupted by the quantum virus. Within hours, the mighty armada that had conquered Earth was reduced to a collection of disabled vessels begging for mercy. Dr. Collins worked with Tony Clark to analyze the captured alien technology. Their organic computers are incredibly advanced, but they have a critical weakness. They cannot function properly with conflicting input from individual consciousness. Tony nodded as he studied the alien systems. Humans created artificial intelligence that can handle individual users, but the Draconians built living computers that require collective input. Our mental patterns overloaded their systems. Nina looked up from her computer where she was tracking the spread of their virus. The quantum infection has reached their home worlds. We are receiving transmissions from across the Draconian Empire reporting system failures. President Carter addressed the nation and the world from the White House steps. The alien invasion has been defeated not through superior weapons or technology, but through the power of human individuality. We have shown that freedom and independent thought are stronger than any collective force. Kyle Adams was recovering in a medical facility, but he could still sense the changes occurring throughout the galaxy. The Draconian Empire is collapsing, he told Dr. White. Millions of alien minds are experiencing individual consciousness for the first time. War Master Thektar, now calling himself Freemind Thektar, worked with human scientists to establish communication with other former Draconian commanders. Many aliens were struggling to adapt to individual consciousness, but others embraced their new freedom. My people spent thousands of years believing that unity required the surrender of personal identity, he explained to Dr. Hayes. Humans have shown us that true strength comes from cooperation between independent minds. Kethvar led a group of liberated Draconians who wanted to help repair the damage their empire had caused. We wish to make amends for the worlds we conquered and the species we forced into our collective. Perhaps together we can free others who are still trapped. Captain Morrison was promoted to admiral and given command of a joint human-Draconian fleet. Their mission was to travel to worlds throughout the former empire and offer liberation to species that were still trapped in collective consciousness. "It is ironic," Jake said to his crew as they prepared for their first mission. "The Draconians came to conquer Earth, and instead we conquered them with the one thing they could never understand or defend against." Lisa Park had been studying alien technology and was amazed by what humans could accomplish by combining their creativity with draconian organic computers. When individual minds work together voluntarily, instead of being forced into a collective, the results are incredible. Dr. Hayes established a new department of xenopsychology to study the mental patterns of different alien species. Her research would help humanity understand and communicate with the many civilizations they would encounter as they explored the galaxy. The war that had seemed hopeless just days before was over, and humanity had won not through violence, but by sharing the gift of individual consciousness. The Draconian Armada was gone, scattered across the solar system as disabled ships filled with aliens who were learning to think for themselves. Earth had been their target, but instead of being conquered, humanity had liberated an entire empire. The galaxy would never be the same because humans had proven that the power of individual thought and voluntary cooperation was stronger than any forced collective. Kyle Adams stood on the observation deck of the new starship Unity and watched as human and former Draconian crews worked together to prepare for their mission. They were going to bring freedom to the stars, one world at a time. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun, and it would be built on the foundation of individual liberty and voluntary alliance rather than conquest and forced submission. The Draconians had come to Earth seeking slaves, but instead, they found teachers who showed them the true meaning of strength.